MG has certainly changed over the years, moving from something more traditional and British looking to something thought more modern and suited to today's market. Now that could be in part down to a change in ownership. MG is now owned by SAIC, a Chinese firm, and this is the GS, their third model to come to the UK. It's an attempt to crack the bulging and growing SUV market in the country. I've got this for the next week and I'm going to be taking it around the roads, hills and valleys of Wales to find out just how good it is and how suited it is to the market today. Me, the car and the open road. So let's give this thing a proper test. So what's it like to drive? Well, not bad. On the motorway, you've got a comfortable cruiser, you've got cruise control, so you can actually set the speed you want and pretty much let it rest. Sometimes that will fluctuate, it will drop below, and then you'll feel an obvious kick when it will come back in to say it's trying to achieve that speed. Other than that, on the motorway, nice, flat and steady. On the country roads, it's a big car, there's a bit of a roll, and the suspension setup maybe could be a bit firmer in the corners going round. Get a bit too much lean there, and the seats don't grab you enough to actually hold you through that or to compensate. The engine itself is quite pokey actually, it does accelerate quite nicely. There's a bit of a, I'm having to speak up a little bit, it's not quite as quiet as it could be in some way, shape or form, but overall it doesn't perform too badly. There's a bit of a vibration at 3000 RPM, which, to be honest with you, with a 6-speed gearbox, I've not hit very often. Underneath the bonnet, you will find a 1.5 litre turbocharged engine producing 164 brake horsepower and 2,500 newton meters of torque at 4,300 RPM. Perfectly adequate for the size of the car. In fact, it performed really well going around the twisty, windy roads of Wales, as well as the motorways on the trip there. On the outside, you don't get Xenon headlights or fog lights on this, the Excite model, nor do you get power fold mirrors. They're all reserved for the model up. But you do get clean, sharp, precise looks. You do get some daylight running lights, and you get, overall, a nice looking car. Now, being an SUV, the MG GS should have a decent boot capacity. Well, in fact, behind the rear tailgate, underneath the cover flap, you have 483 litres of capacity as standard. Now, to put that into context, the Nissan Qashqai has around 430 litres, the Skoda Yeti around 418. MG have also furnished the GS with a 60-40 rear seat split, which means that you can choose whether you've got large loads, long loads, whatever, you can choose the rear seating arrangement and still have passengers in the back. These fold flat, increasing the capacity even more. Inside, what are we faced with? Well, a very clean and crisp interior. This is something that MG learnt from the MG3 when that first came out, and it was not present really in the MG6. You have a 6-speed gearbox, you have a 8-inch touchscreen panel here, which allows you to use DAB and in the model Bluetooth. You have a rake adjustable steering wheel, center console, glove box. All the more cons really. In the back you've got room for 3 passengers, and if you're only carrying 2, there's a fold down armrest in the middle to give them a bit more comfort. The seats can also recline slightly depending on what your needs are and what you want. The seats themselves are fairly comfortable, but not maybe of the comfort of more leading models. And they're only finished in a fabric which can be a bit slippery at times. But for a car at this budget, you can't really expect too much more. And for a car at this budget, they're perfectly adequate. So I've been living with this car now for a week, driving it around the country roads of Wales, even the motorways up and down here. And what do I think? Personally, I love it. Yes, there's a few little niggles. The gearbox sometimes tricks you into thinking it can cope when it can't. The windscreen might mist up every now and again, and I really still cannot get on board with a digital fuel gauge. I much prefer knowing exactly how much I've got in the tank. But overall, it's comfortable. It pulls, it works on the hills, it works on the motorways. You don't feel like you're going to lose control in the fast bends. And to think about it, the GS range starts at £15,000. To put that into context, the Kia Sportage, that begins from around about 18,000. The Nissan Qashqai, the market leader, that's 19,000 upwards. And the Ford Kuga, £21,000 on. 15 grand for a car like this. It's not exactly complex, is it? Unlike this place. Frankfurt Polywiller, Frankfurt Polywiller, Frankfurt Polywiller with the Frankfurt Polywiller, I give up.